Hello, everybody. Sorry for being a bit late today. It was an extremely busy day because of the volatility on the markets. So, a lot of stuff had to go on. And we need to do a deep analysis as well of exactly what the next 100 days for Bitcoin could look like and the impact of Asia and a ton of other data, including a new price target and so much more. Lots of numbers, lots of tables, lots of progress, lots of charts. This is going to be a big one. Thank you all for coming. It's called 5 Days to Stack, and you'll get the significance of that in a minute. And a shout out as well to Patreon from Raul Duke. Finally joined Patreon. Been watching from the sidelines for too long. Well, welcome in. Better late than never. And there's a Bitcoin only playlist here afterwards if that's all you're interested in. We only have 7 days to go. It's going to be an exciting 7 days. It's already beginning to be exciting with the volatility today. Today we wicked down to $65,000 on the nose. 65,000. I tweeted it, and it was clear we were going to bounce off that level because they were reaching down for, guess what? Yes, to liquidate the longs. And, we know how this works. We've been watching this for years. People out there go leverage long, the market makers see it, and they swoop down and they grab it. But this could be a good catalyst. If you look at this chart here, you'll see we still have that 71,600 level for the shorts. They're having a good day today, but the longs did not have a good day. But this leverage liquidation event and cascading liquidations could be the last one before the halving on 419. A lot of people say 420, but I think it's 419. Anyway, the question is what will happen after that. And that's what I want to dig in today. Talk about the size of the new players, the new entrants that are coming in, and how significant they are. But before we jump into that, I want to say a moment of silence to everybody. There's about 55 million people, I reckon, in crypto, and they just lost nearly $1 billion. So if somebody has kids watching with them today, we'll take the moment of silence. But if they can calculate what the average loss is per person, it is stunning. So take 876 million and divide that by 52 million. And you can see that the average person in crypto lost money today. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now, let's talk about the first bit of bad news before we get into the good news. This is the so-called equilibrium from Michael Sonnenschein at Grayscale. Said, yeah, I think the drainage is done. Well, that was not the case because they did have a big dump yesterday again. And I always get the question, okay, they started the event with 621,000 Bitcoin. They've lost half, okay? So call it 300,000 left. I think there's a maximum of another 100,000 that could bleed out over the next 60 to 90 days. So be prepared for that. But that doesn't matter. You know why? Because of this. Asia is coming in. And per Bloomberg, up to $25 billion in demand for Bitcoin from China is expected to be unlocked. All right. Hong Kong are set to approve the spot Bitcoin ETF on Monday. That's why I say 5 days to stack, because the Asians know what's happening on Friday next week, 1 week from now. Yes, the Bitcoin halving. There's going to be a massive sense of urgency to on-ramp fiat or digital yuan or whatever they have and push it into Bitcoin as quickly as possible. Next week could be bonkers. 25 billion, is that possible? Well, it's pretty much what BlackRock spent in 63 days. So yeah, it's possible. But let's break Asia down. And when it's a complex subject, I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So I put together a little mind map why Asia will be big. First of all, I consider Hong Kong to be kind of like the financial district of Asia out there. And people in that region are not as risk averse as they are in the United States. And I believe there will be a lot of willingness in these regions to embrace the Bitcoin ETFs. Also, billionaire density. I've spoken about that a lot. I think that will be huge. I also believe China, mainland China, somewhere secretly is mining Bitcoin. Another key point I've mentioned many times before, the real estate market collapse. The implosion over the last decade, in particular the last 2 years, meant a lot of investors in China, a lot of middle class and wealthy people, are looking for alternative investment opportunities, making Bitcoin a very attractive option. In fact, there was a gold purchases indicator. Gold was trading at 30% markup over spot. That was the desperation for Chinese to get their hands on something other than real estate or stocks or whatever else. And mainland China does have a huge influence in Hong Kong, but they are integrating Hong Kong's financial system with mainland China. So there will be big moves, big money coming in, not just from Hong Kong, where there's lots of billionaires, but also mainland China, and on and on and on. I think it'll be really, really, really big as we go forward. So that's kind of some of my random thoughts. The TLDR on this, in simple terms, is this. China and Hong Kong, they're not risk averse. Billionaires per capita is off the charts. The total number of billionaires in Hong Kong and China are nearly the same as the US. I'll show you in the next slide. They're not risk averse. And the US and the American investor do not have a desperate need of alpha like China after the real estate market. This will be huge. This is the number of billionaires on the planet, which I analyzed a few months ago. 38% of all billionaires in the world are in the US. 30% are in China and Hong Kong. Second biggest concentration of billionaires on the planet. Not as many as the US, but there could be a lot of secret billionaires that we don't know about as well, because privacy is big over there too. Now, putting that all in perspective, yesterday I did share this, and it shows you that if you exclude Bitcoin not moved in 1 year, the new ETF sucked up 18.7% of the actual supply that has not moved in a year, or just excluding the stuff that has not moved in the last year. Now, let's look at what I believe the next 100 days could look like. And this is fascinating. And a little bit of the inspiration came from HODL 15 that had some of the stuff on the middle column. But I added a few elements as well. So since January 10th, 2024, just to give you an idea of the impact of the space, the amount of Bitcoin mined, etc. Number of Bitcoin mined, 81,900 Bitcoin. Number of Bitcoin sold by GBTC, 305,000. The number of Bitcoin sold by everyone else, 185,000. The number of Bitcoin bought by Mr. 100, 19,712. The number of Bitcoin bought by MicroStrategy, 25,000. And the number of Bitcoin bought by the 9 new ETFs, 52,631. Now that number there, the number of Bitcoin sold by everybody else, I do have a theory that many of them may have bought spot ETFs for safety reasons, security reasons. They didn't want to self-custody anymore. So that's one theory. But let's fast forward to the next 100 days. That was the previous 100 days. The next 100 days, the amount of Bitcoin that will be mined will be 40,950. Okay, half of what was there. Now, the number of Bitcoin sold by GBTC, I estimate, will be maximum 100,000. By the way, nobody's ever done this analysis before. So it's first, and we'll see how close I am. I will measure everything 100 days from now and see how accurate I was. And this is kind of worst case scenario. The number of Bitcoin sold by everybody else, I assume that's the same. People will sell for lifestyle chips, who knows what. The number of Bitcoin bought by Mr. 100, I think that will slow down. So I took half of that amount. Instead of 20,000 in 100 days, it'll be 9,800. And the number of Bitcoin bought by MicroStrategy, I took 10% of what they bought because I don't see them buying a lot more unless they issue more debt. And the number of Bitcoin bought by the 9 new ETFs, I assume that will be the same. If anything, it's going to accelerate. And the reason it's going to accelerate is because TradFi is coming in. The investment advisors are all now comfortable with it, and they'll start allocating. So if anything, it'll be more than 500,000 Bitcoin. And then the number of Bitcoin bought by the Asian ETFs, I assumed a fraction of that 25 billion, so 250,000, half of what the Americans bought. I think that's an easy get. That gives us, hey Joseph, thank you for coming. That gives us a deficit, all right, in the world of 463,000 Bitcoin. Where is that going to come from? I have no idea. Therefore, the price is going to go up. And I know there's a lot of people saying, oh, the price is going to fall 40%. It's like, I'm willing to take bets on that. If anybody's interested in betting a Bitcoin on a 40% dip, I don't see it happening with this type of inflow. Now, let's look at a couple of other things too, just to give you an idea of how much money is in Hong Kong and China. You can see here, Hong Kong has 2.8% of the world's wealth, and China has about 18.6% of the world's wealth. Combined, they are north of 20%. 1/5 of the planet's wealth is in this region, and they are not risk averse. Also, crypto volume. I shared this April 2023. It is all Asia. It's probably even more extreme right now because there's a lot more activity in Korea. But you can see that Asia makes up the vast majority of spot crypto volume, and that will continue. So if you think the volumes we saw for the spot ETFs in the US is big, you ain't seen nothing yet. It's going to get crazy. And it's not just Hong Kong and China. We're talking South Korea, we're talking Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand. Thailand, this is from Bitcoin News. Massive billboard in Thailand is counting down the Bitcoin halving. I think that's really cool. So, I'm not sure if I mentioned today's sponsor is coconut water, because I'm thirsty like hell. But let's jump in a little bit more. First of all, BlackRock now have 270,000 Bitcoin, which is worth about $19 billion. Again, my forecast for these ETFs was to get, hopefully, bull case, $50 billion by the end of the year. One player in 63 days took in $19 billion. It's monstrous. And this player as well, called BlackRock, is growing. They just hit $10.5 trillion in assets under management in Q1 2024. Bonkers time. 10.5 trillion. So I asked myself, how much Bitcoin do they have now in terms of assets under management as a percentage? Hey, Mike, happy Friday. And I think I missed somebody up there too. Zeno, good to see you both. What is the amount of assets under management they have allocated to Bitcoin already? And let's see if we are early. Here we are. IBIT, which is their ETF, over BlackRock AUM assets under management, is now 0.18% of their assets under management is in Bitcoin. 99.82% is in other stuff. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. We know BlackRock have hinted at massive allocations. Not just 3.5%, not just 5%, but in some cases 38% or even 62% in different studies that they have done. They are going to allocate more to Bitcoin. They have only just begun, okay? And 0.18% isn't a lot when we know it's going to 1%. So that's going to at least 5x from here, probably within 12 months. What's 5 times 19 billion? $100 billion alone just from that player. I don't know where they're going to get the Bitcoin. I really don't. I'm excited to watch, though. We'll see. Now, for others who think that the ETFs have no influence on Bitcoin and the ETFs are bad for Bitcoin, well, check this out. This shows you the direct correlation. This is from Hey Apollo. And it's extremely obvious from this chart what's driving the Bitcoin price. So if you look at the yellow at the bottom, they are the daily ETF inflows. And the aggregate black line, you could ignore that. And then look at the price chart of Bitcoin. Every time there's a big ETF inflow, there's a big pump in price. And yes, we've had very meager inflows over the last 3 or 4 weeks because of massive dumpage by Grayscale. But that is soon to be over. Guaranteed. They have no more, I reckon, 2/3 in total, 100,000 Bitcoin left to flush. And that could take 90 days, maybe 120 days. And then this will be back on track and it'll go crazy. Now, shout out to Adam Back. He believes Bitcoin is super cheap at the current prices based on his fundamental analysis. And he's an OG in the Bitcoin space. He's been there since before day one. He is part of the team that assembled this beautiful thing. And in terms of bullish price targets, we have Tim Draper, Silicon Valley OG venture capitalist. If I had to predict $250,000 by the end of this year, it is looking pretty good. Now, he has been off before. He has been a little bit overly bullish, but maybe this time he's right. We'll see. But given the data, given how much Bitcoin or BlackRock is going to allocate to Bitcoin, and given the 25 billion from Asia, I mean, you just look at this. It's going to drive the price up. How much is the question? So we'll see. And shout out to Nayib Bukele. The IMF demands El Salvador change its Bitcoin law in return for a $1.4 billion loan. We're going to bribe you with fiat. Come back into the fold. Turn your back on that Bitcoin stuff. And don't be a hero anymore. Embrace the melting ice cube that is fiat. And Nayib said, go pound sand. Let's look at some charts. And then we go into some other charts too. This is all the ETF data. Day 63. Hard to believe. And you can see here, we had that beautiful day on day 62. Only $17.5 million of dumpage. We were all rejoicing. And then the next day, 125 million. Boom! Back again. So much for equilibrium, Michael Sunshine. Nah. But with nearly 200 million from BlackRock, which saved the day. Burr at about 8.4. Fidelity at a very low day. And BITB, good day. So overall, we expect, normally I think the ETFs actually have a nice buy day on Friday too. And we know what happens at the weekend. So we'll get into that in a minute too. So this is the visual, what it looks like. The green is the one, the dumpage. Big dip again, but nothing like the stuff we saw before, and a strong day for BlackRock. Overall, not a bad week for BlackRock. Looks like Fidelity's fizzling out, but I expect that to return next week and be much stronger. Money flow still positive, which is good. These are the money flow bars. These are the trend. You can see the overall trend of the money flows in are down. And that's because the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks have been terrible Grayscale dumpage weeks. But that will be gone soon. And that big horizontal line tending ever so much to the downside, that negative slope will turn up, I do believe. But overall, the money trend is up into these puppies. 36 billion inflows into the 9 new ETFs. And, of course, 19 billion of that 36 is BlackRock. So, you know, even though BlackRock is the 800-pound gorilla, when you add up the others, that's nearly half. So all the others nearly equate to exactly what BlackRock did. So they're not to be ignored. And 528,000 Bitcoin in the new ETFs, including the 303,000 flush from Grayscale. So overall, things are good. This is the Grayscale visual. Pink is trend. We're above trend, so I'm happy. I only get concerned when we go below that pink line. And we're halfway between 0 and that pink line right now, so it's not catastrophic. Pink line lands at about $200 million, give or take. And the Grayscale dumpage was the 18th best day ever. So out of 63 days, it was in the top 2/3. So again, not too bad. The amount taken from the system yesterday, not a big day, but 1,304 Bitcoin were out of the system, gobbled up. Remember, we're only getting 900 issued a day, which will be 450 in 7 days. So soon, if today was to happen, 8 days from now, that would be 3x the daily issuance. And that's why this thing is special. So a couple of quick charts. Let's hammer in on my first analysis. I did this was last week for the weekend, and I anticipated it would be a very positive weekend. So I updated it for the weekend gainers. What I do is I take the price on Friday at the market close, and I take the Bitcoin price Monday in the market open and calculate the delta. And you can see last week added $4,000 to the Bitcoin price. This week, considering where we're coming from, oh yeah, I think it's going to pump pretty hard. We went all the way down to 65,000. We're up 2,300 off that base already as I speak right now live. The trend of the weekend gainers is going up, and as much of it is driven by the ETFs as well. And Asia buying. And I know Asia's going to stack this weekend. So are we going to get back close to 70 or above 70,000 this weekend? I'd say there's a very good chance of doing that. Now, let's look at another cool thing. The miners are still selling, which is important. But remember, most of the miners, there's only about 18 to 20% of the publicly traded miners that are here that are selling. The other miners that are not public, they are probably hodling right now. But the miners that are stuck for cash, high in debt, they know they have to offload their Bitcoin to buy new modern rigs. And there's a big news report I posted regarding CleanSpark earlier today on Patreon. Check that out. You'll see their unbelievable numbers. In addition, breaking news from Bitcoin Munger. Retail is not fully in yet. I thought this chart was interesting. If you go back to April 2021, that's when Bitcoin first reached the all-time high in the last bull run. It was $127.2 million of crypto trading volume on Robinhood. Now it's only $6.5 billion, and that is per week. So basically, retail has not come back to the party yet, and we should expect to see much higher volume when we are closer to completely crazy Bitcoin prices. Everybody will kind of FOMO in late. But I decided from this, I'd look at how many people are actually in the crypto space. Again, using the TABI model, all this on-chain stuff we represent in TradingView. And you can see retail users are at an all-time high now for Bitcoin. 52.5 million retail users in the space. The more users, the more value the network has because of Metcalfe's law. And that's a very positive sign. So yeah, the retail users may not be trading as much, but there's a lot of retail activity on the Bitcoin blockchain. So hope that was good. Net, Asia will be extremely big. Could even be bigger than the 9 US ETFs, or at least very close to it. And we saw the impact that they have had. And one last number I do want to re-emphasize again. I do hate going back. I like to only go forward in life, but this is a crazy statistic. Focus your eyes on that little red box down there. That is the deficit for the next 100 days of Bitcoin by my calculations. And that doesn't include all the other buyers that we are not aware of yet. Nearly $500,000 Bitcoin shortfall over the next 100 days, if I'm right. And I will measure this. I always check scorecard myself, and we'll see exactly how close I am. So happy weekend, everybody. Happy Friday. Don't forget, go out and have a good time. And I'll see you all later. Hey, Sean Donnelly and TND Tesla and K8 and Mike and everybody, thank you so much for coming. And Joseph Samuel, all the way out there on the other side of the world, very late your time. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.